Josh is a national thought leader and international speaker on care coordination, population health management, readmission prevention, and developing integrated post-acute networks. He is regarded as a futurist, and he is going to be challenging to some of the thoughts that we have around what lays ahead for us in how we utilize our continuum of care. He's also a futurist on the Affordable Care Act and how it will shape that continuum of care, and is described as an innovator. He's a forward-thinking strategist and is often involved with ACO development, acute hospitals, and post-acute leaders on how to position themselves for revenue growth in a post-ACA model. He serves as executive faculty at the University of Southern California and Sol Price University of Public Speaking. He also is the author of several books around and focused on readmissions. He is the founder of the National Readmissions Prevention Collaboration and the National ACO and Bundled Payment Collaborative. He and Dr. Coleman often speak together from Eric's perspective and from Dr. Loupe's perspective. It has again been my pleasure to know Josh not only as a colleague, but as a worker with us on the National Transitions of Care Coalition, and understanding some of his perspectives. You know, one of the things I think we're all challenged with in healthcare is we come with very set views on how things need to be. And sometimes we have to kind of let that down, look out beyond the box, and see what might be available or what might be possible if we could change just some of these ways that we think. Sometimes I think we're being forced to change by what we're seeing come through legislation. And I think Dr. Loupe will help us actually look at this through a different lens and give us some ideas of things we might consider. I will caution you that some of it may be threatening to us, but what in our healthcare world hasn't been threatening in the last 6 to 8 years to every single one of us? So please, with a warm welcome, please welcome Josh Loupe to our stage.
You're welcome.
All right. So you've been warned, I guess. So I am so thrilled and honored to be here. Wow, Kathleen got you guys going early. That was awesome. She had me rolling. I'm looking out for this hole over here. I got big shoes, size 16, so hopefully I'll be okay. And anytime I can share the stage with Dr. Coleman, it's just an honor. You know, I was joking with Dr. Coleman a year or so ago. We were speaking at an event, and I said, hey, you've been doing this research on readmissions and transitions of care for, gosh, since way before like 2005, more than 10, 15 years, right? He said, Josh, probably since before you were born. So, and you know what, as you look back at all the great work Dr. Coleman's done, it's there and it's so exciting. I just had a brief chat with him backstage. We haven't had a chance to catch up in the last few months. And the work he's doing on teaching and emphasizing self-management is so exciting. We're starting to see the results of that because the infrastructure is now coming along with it from a public policy perspective. And if you would have told me 10 years ago that I was thought of as a public policy expert, I'd be teaching at the University of Southern California public policy, I would have said I don't even like public policy. But what happened after starting as a nursing home administrator and then transitioning up to a hospital CEO is the Affordable Care Act came about, and I started to just do what a lot of people refer to it as calling it as I see it, and saying here's a few things that are of concern to me. So there's the first slide. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. First of all, thank you again for having me. I'd like to start with this first slide here because it tells you two things about me. It tells you my diverse background and why in 2011 I set out to write a book on readmission prevention, and it was published by the American College of Healthcare Executives. And that is, as many of you know, as you have CMSA as the trade organization you need to be involved in as a case manager. As a healthcare executive, that's ACHE, and many of you may be members, and if not, I would encourage you to join that as well if you really want to be involved with an organization who focuses on the executive component. ACHE published the readmission prevention book, and part of the reason they approached me was they said, hey, we don't know too many CEOs from hospitals who have also been a nursing home administrator. So what I like about this slide is it shows you my diverse background, but it also shows you that I can't keep a job for very long, right? Because I've been a SNP administrator, I've been a hospital CEO, I got asked to be the interim CEO of a hospital here in LA about a year and a half ago. They actually called and said, you want to come be a CEO? I said, no. They called back and they said, do you want to do it on an interim basis? And I said, well, now that sounds interesting, let's talk about that. And somewhere in the interim, I did an acute rehab CEO stint out in Las Vegas. So I left Southern California. This is my home market. I was born at a hospital you may be familiar with, hopefully not any more familiar 2 days from now than now because it's called Long Beach Memorial Medical Center, right? So it's a great hospital. That's all you need to know about it while you're here. You don't need to visit, right? So I live in Orange County, and I also had the opportunity to be the vice president of post-acute services for a large not-for-profit health system here in Southern California, Torrance Memorial. And that's really about the time that my passion for readmission prevention and care transitions took off. And this is just 2010, 2011. I was reading Dr. Coleman's work. I mean, the godfather of the transitions of care space, studying, going, why can't anyone answer the most basic of questions for me from the operations side? There's all this great work being led by Dr. Coleman and others from the doctor's perspective, from the public health perspective, but from the operator's perspective. When the Affordable Care Act came out, we just ran down here to the beach and dug a big hole and stuck our head as deep in the sand as we could and said, no way, not going to have it. We're about putting heads in beds, and that's all we're ever going to do. I had the opportunity here in Southern California to learn from some of the most accomplished hospital CEOs that I could ever have imagined learning from. I was blessed to become a CEO when I was 32 years old at a hospital in Anaheim. And I would go to this meeting right down the street here in Long Beach once a quarter where I'd sit in a room with 30 other hospitals and CEOs, and I would just listen and learn. But I had so many questions when I left about how we got where we got in the fee-for-service era. So we're going to talk about some of those things today. So what are we going to talk about today? How is your world changing? And where do we begin when you ask that question, right? So the ACO medical group, first of all, I want to do a show of hands if we could really quick. Raise your hand if you're a case manager from a hospital or a health system. Can you raise your hand really quickly? Okay. Now, next, thank you. If you can put your hands down. If you're a case manager from a medical group, an insurance company, a health plan, you're on the other side, right? Okay, I'm going to ask you guys to raise your hands in a minute again. Okay, now raise your hand if you're a case manager that doesn't fit into one of the two buckets that I just asked about. Okay, we got a pretty even distribution. Now, last but not least, what if you're like me and you're not a case manager at all, but you're just here because you want to learn from these great, smart people, okay? All right. Okay, so now I know. I know you're all here, and I want you to know that my message impacts each of you in some way, shape, or form. So everything we're going to discuss impacts all of you, but I want to start with a little story. Okay, before that story, let's go on our first tangent. I'm great at tangents. When Sherry called me and said, Josh, she took a long, deep breath and a pause. I would like to know if you'd be interested in being one of the keynote speakers at the CMSA annual conference along with Dr. Coleman. And then I had a really long pause. I said, Sherry, have you heard the things I say about case managers? Okay, we got that out of the way, right? So she said, yes, I have, and it's about time we start talking about it more. So, and she did approve my slides in advance. I want you guys to know. Okay? But the other thing that Sherry said was this. She said, hey, Josh, I have had the opportunity to see you speak a couple times, and I don't feel like you're picking on anybody because I've heard physicians say you picked on them. I've heard hospital CEOs certainly say you pick on them. And one of the things I always say, hey, is remember I'm one of you, because in most cases, I've been a healthcare executive. I've been a nursing home administrator. I've been in the room on most sides of the table in these discussions. And so with that said, I want to tell you about the first day on the job as a hospital CEO. I'm 32 years old. I'm so proud. I just came from the nursing home sector. I'm like, how in the world did I get this job as a CEO of this little hospital in Anaheim? The answer is because the doctors and the nursing homes lost faith in that hospital's ability to deliver care. And so the hospital ownership went out and said, hey, we need a nursing home administrator that knows how to talk to these nursing home administrators that can get those 4 nursing homes to send patients back to us, because that's all we need to be successful. And they were right. And we did that. So my first day, I got there at like 7:59 a.m., right? I was probably in the parking lot 20 minutes earlier, but I walked in at 7:59 for my 8 a.m. shift. And it wasn't even 9:30. I mean, I waited a whole 90 minutes to go visit the case managers. I just couldn't wait to get back at them, I'll be honest, okay? So I walk into the case management office in that hospital, and what I didn't tell you yet is that I had been a nursing home administrator in that region for about 3 or 4 years. So I had been there to market to those case manager. So, and some of you might be here today, bless your heart. Kathy stole my line earlier, but like she said, 99% of the time when I say bless their heart, I mean it. So I walked into the case management office, and there was 3 case managers sitting there, and I said, ladies, it is so nice to see you. Do you remember me? They went, isn't that the new CEO? I said, no, I don't think we know you. And I said, well, you wouldn't, because each of the 3 times I came to market to you as a nursing home administrator, you never even turned around to say hello to me.